school packet. When we were first listening Friday night, we were high. She has no tape. Well, you know what, John, she's back where you can't be over there. What's her name?
I don't know if we have
Well, you know, you could somehow quote to it.
It's me, you know,
Yeah. I was like that. I read the first couple of them, and I see I'm going to say it rather than, you know, sorry.
sorry, you know.
Is the research that she's citing her research?
Understand. Before we do your shoulders. Oh, yeah.
They brought 4 people early, plus senators. He's still mad about it.
I don't understand.
He brought it up, you know, and why did he love it? And then I'm not going to be here. Mine's on here. You can have mine too. I'm just not that. And I've got everything in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Call the School District of Weyauwega Fremont Regular Board of Education meeting Monday, October 28, 2013 to order at 6 p.m. in the Weyauwega Fremont Middle School IMC. To the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call and establish quorum, please.
Loehrke.
Here.
Debbie Bartle. Here. Tony Meyer.
Here.
Larry Barnhart.
Here.
Jim Stutz.
Here.
Sam Smith. Here. Brandi Dain.
On 4, meeting is properly notified on back side. 5, communication and visitors. 5A, visitors. Anyone signed up to speak this evening?
Not at this time, no.
B.Administration.
I'll quickly comment on my board report for this month that deals with multiple topics that will going to be touched tonight in our October board meeting as well, potentially in our annual meeting 20th, Governor Walker signed Senate Bill 1, which increased the authority throughout the state to increase property tax relief, and that does affect our district, and we're going to talk specifically as to what that means to our district. Later on this evening as well, there was an amendment to Fund 80 in which we had detailed discussion at our budget hearing, budget meeting, and what that would potentially allow us to do is the board would recommend to take that forward to our annual meeting and have our public vote on the potential increase of Fund 80 back to budgeting levels from 2011, 2012. We'll be discussing those further. Just one more highlight to mention over the weekend. I attended the middle school play. It was very entertaining. The true story of Little Red Riding Hood and congratulations to the students that participated as well as the support staff and our staff members that were involved. It was very entertaining. And tomorrow night, our high school chorus program will be at the Appleton Performing Arts Center, the BAC performing along with Kimberly and Portonville for the 10th annual Choral Fest. Okay, and we're very honored and pleased to be there. It's open to the public to attend, and they were down there today practicing with the performance tomorrow. It's at 7 o'clock in downtown Appleton. So looking forward to that event tomorrow night. Mr. Schrader and I will be attending the program. So looking forward to it. Any questions?
Basically, my board report, just given the essence of time and so forth, is pretty much similar and some extensions from my last report. I don't know if you have any specific questions. The only thing new I was going to add was the fact that I was attending the GAC tomorrow night to support our choir program there.
I've got a few more items. Mrs. Zeichert reported that all the kindergarten classes had a great time at the pumpkin patch. It was a field trip to the fire station in October. Mrs. Eskelson and a group from the elementary school are honoring the veterans by having a penny challenge the week of November 4th through the 8th. Their goal is to raise $700 for the Old Glory Honor Flight to Washington, D.C. Today, I guess, were you here today taking the pictures? Okay. We had pictures taken for the students who were winners of the Weyauwega Fire Department Fire Prevention Poster Contest winners. Ezra Balthazar, Ethan Garretts, Mary Hanson, Emma Poltruck, Madeline Nearing, Paula Beavers, Gracie Hanson, Trista Ritchie, Jamie Doty, Danielle Bolter, Ashley Johnson, and Paige Culbertson were all recognized as being winners those are all at different grade levels. Mrs. Foster and Mr. Van Newlen at Fremont are going to be getting up the Play 60 program up. That's I don't know if you're familiar with that through the NFL. They're planning a kickoff rally in the gym this Thursday. That's about at 1:30, I believe. Mrs. Stark is having a Halloween week candy corn reading contest. A jar of candy is placed by the office, and it shouldn't be too close to me because it might get empty. So I don't know if the results might be skewed a little bit. But anyway, students can earn a guess for every 10 minutes of reading that they do outside of school, so either at home or leisure. And so for every 10 minutes, they can enter a guess and win a prize. There's always obviously a first place winner who's the closest, but then there are other prizes as you go down the line. Fifth graders are publishing a book. They've been working hard writing personal narratives in Mrs. Hanton's room and haunted stories in Mrs. Akey's class. They're finishing up the final steps in the publishing process, and copies of their work will be submitted for publishing next week. Stories will be hardbound for the students in classrooms. And Mrs. Sullivan's class will be having the students will be making what they call a spectacular breakfast Thursday. Broomstick, sausage links, jack-o'-lantern pancakes, monster eggs, and witch's brew is on the menu. I think that basically.
I'm going to let my board report stand as written, but there were two things that I wanted to point out from two of the programs going on in the middle school. In the GT program throughout the district, Weyauwega Fremont has involved the students in the Sumdog Region 6 math contest. and there were over 1,500 students that entered total, and our school came in 6th place. So she wanted to point that out, that they were doing a really good job with that. And then from Melanie Eskilson's Read 180 class in the middle school, this is the 3rd year in a row that they've achieved this. Mrs. Eskilson sets a reading goal, and the students are then rewarded with a pizza party that she provides. And so far together, the students have read over 800,000 words, and so they met their goal for the semester, and she will put forth a higher challenge next semester, but I just wanted to share that.
I had an opportunity a few weeks ago to attend the Skyward Conference in Wisconsin Dells. It was a great opportunity to learn and network with other folks around the state that use the same product we do. Other than that, I've been preparing for our annual meetings this evening. My board report, in the packet, you'll note that the food service program is performing quite nicely as compared to last month. Our medical, our health insurance program took a little bit of a hit this month, but we're hoping it'll come back. Our dental program is doing better than last month, and it's on its way back to where we'd expect it to be. So, the rest will happen at the next meeting.
C.Board of Education. D.Recognition and special guests. One donation target $51.32. Or Weyauwega Elementary.
Just to recognize a donation that was made annually to Target organization, department store, which many people from our community may support. They kick back to the communities that shop and use their resources. Received a check for $51.32 recently to help support K-12 education. So thank you to the members that turned in their receipts and showed their support to the Weyauwega Fremont School District. The second recognition we'd like to note tonight is one that we commented on earlier in the year, but just to give a follow-up report. Candy Martin, myself, and Paula Grover recently were in Madison at the state capitol over recognition of the Title I school for Fremont Elementary, and not only was it recognition on behalf of our district and the great things, there was a monetary contribution that has been made to Fremont Elementary to be used within their title program for the amount of $500. There's copies in the materials as well. Just brief highlights. I know you try to put it in writing, and it's just difficult to sum up. But we were truly amongst great schools that day from around the state. The rotunda at the Capitol was filled from one end to the other with school districts and supporters of Title I schools and representatives from the state. It was a great day. I know Paula was designated as our representative to receive the award from Dr. Evers, and she went up on behalf of our district in Fremont Elementary and received it. Overall, great day for our students and for our district. So thank you for Paula being our Title I instructor, who is instrumental in making our program what it is. And for 2 years in a row now, it has been recognized for the outstanding achievements. And not everyone can say that. And just to cap that off, we are recognized as a high-achieving school district. And that's based on the skill set of our students, not only to bring at a high level, but then to sustain it. And so that alone is a great feat by our students, in which we're all working to achieve. And congratulations. So thank you all for your hard work.
Congratulations, Paul.
e.CESA representative, Stewart.
Nothing to report.
Legislative liaison, Bleck.
Just one item. If you've been watching the news, the budget and the tax relief and some of the amendments that have been coming out have kind of been taking the forefront. But another one that's close to the front line, and we've had preliminary discussion on this past year. Unfortunately, it always seems to be stemmed from an outbreak of violence within public settings or school communities, and which no one is immune to, but unfortunately it happened. Recently, our state assembly began committee work to create a bill that would allow off-duty officers and retired officers and the ability to carry weapons on school grounds. That bill has now been postponed. There was supposed to be a vote coming up here on October 31st, but it has been postponed to a very later time frame. And from our professional organizations, school administrators, they have a viewpoint very cautiously to look at this as we move forward. There are pros and cons to the idea, but it's slowing down. And so I guess we'll have to wait, watch, and see what comes out of that if it does go through and this bill does become law. I know at one time we had talked about potentially signing a memorandum of understanding with our local authorities and our county, which some districts do already partake in, and that is fine, which they choose to do. Ultimately, if this were to pass, the need for that would not exist, and then the off-duty officers and or retired law enforcement would be able to enter the buildings within that. The other piece of the puzzle also within this conversation is the concealed carry weapon of individuals that qualify to carry a weapon within, and they're certified and responsible with their firearm as to how that potentially could affect the public school setting. Currently, we recognize that we're a weapon-free zone, and we work hard to try to maintain that within our district. So we'll keep an eye on this as we move forward, and if it becomes law or there's items to report. Thank you.
Board rep. 6, approval of previous minutes. 6A, committee full meeting October 14th, 2013.
Make a motion to approve the committee of the whole meeting October 14th, 2013.
I second that.
Discussion?
Just one thing on page 2 of 4, under long range facility studies, that last sentence, you probably want to add the word like. He asked the board how they would like to proceed with this, and they would like some more information. That's what make it a correct statement.
Anything else? Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. B, regular Board of Education meeting September 23rd, 2013.
Move to approve.
Loehrke.
Second.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 7, consideration and approval of vouchers, 7A, September monthly vendor payments.
I'll make a motion to approve September monthly vendor payments.
Questions or discussion on vendor payments?
I have one on page 9. The top two items. The total, $8,400. I was wondering if there was bids on that or not.
Yes, the board was notified. It's 2 different jobs that were completed. The first was in the face room in the high school, and 3 bids were compiled. And then the second one was not planned replacement, but during our summer cleaning, they started trying to shampoo the carpet, and it started deteriorating and coming apart. And ultimately, that brick floor was scheduled to be replaced this next year, but the condition of the carpet wouldn't uphold it. So another bid went out to have that secured as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Van
Yes.
Amsler.
Yes.
Loehrke.
Yes.
Legal business, a.District strategic plan.
Board members, in your materials, I gave a brief summary of the results from our committee meeting in which each of you prioritized the 6 strategic questions in which we were looking at. And you can check those out as to the order that they came into. Additionally, I would like to recommend that the board establishes a review process. Now that we've established our priority list and we start top-down approach, if you will, that we look at different times throughout the year in which we give updates as to the status of what we've been accomplishing and working towards to. I've designated, with your recommendation, 3 months in which we would revisit this topic, the month of April. The rationale, if there are new board members coming on board for whatever reason, whether it be through re-election or new members as a whole, we would be able to bring them up to the speed to current initiatives and the strategic work that we're attempting to address. Again, in August, where we're looking at the work of the summer, at times during the summer months, we are able to focus maybe a little more intently on individual work and then demonstrate the end result before the start of the school year, potential implementations of projects, programs, and et cetera, that would begin the beginning of the school year. And then again, look at the month of December as a year end. What have we accomplished in that calendar year? Far as program investigation, implementation, and/or updates, and the direction we'll be going. And potentially retooling. Part of any goal or any strategic plan is looking at where you are and where you'd like to go, but often during the way you have to adjust and make changes to get there. So that potentially could be used as a session where we identify that type of feedback.
I have a question. How is this going to proceed? Are we calling some of those committees back together? Is the administration working on it, the board?
Right.
What's the plan there?
I guess the vision that I had is that our stakeholder groups that were part of this from the beginning would have the opportunity to be part of it as well. Look to our greater school community for new voice, maybe come in with a clearer perspective to join as well. Board members, you bet, you were most involved to be part of this, or welcome to be part of that program. Connie and Mike from UW Extension, we can foresee them being part of some of these sub-meetings as well on occasion, just to give their perspective and to maintain our focus. So it's going to be an all call for members that have interest on the particular topics. As an administrative team, we'll be assigning priority people to the topic to take the lead, if you will, with that as oversight. And if there's board input on that process, we'd glad to entertain that. But that's kind of the plan that we're looking at start ASAP now.
Consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second that.
Favor? Carried. Bleck?
The board recognizes the approval of the consent agenda. 4 positions of hire. Jerry Wilson as our head varsity track coach. Cody Frankel as a food service individual. Kyle Thompson as a freshman boys basketball coach. And the addition of Zach Alex as the JV boys basketball coach. Welcome them all aboard.
I have a question. When these folks are hired, are they just hired for one term? Is the people that aren't on the staff?
Typically, they're allowed to retain the position as long as they see that there is an interest. If there is an internal candidate that has an interest in it, we'll also have that. We'll entertain that conversation to do what's best for our district at that time.
I was just asking because of the resignation issue. I think most of them were 1 year. Okay. Thank you.
And new business, and a Wisconsin OPEB TrustAgreement.
During our October committee meeting, we had a lengthy discussion on some adjustments to our post-employment benefit trust in which the district is involved in through the management of c.Out of Oshkosh. They recently went through a request for proposal process to identify a third-party administrator to fill the void of Associated Financial Bank that will no longer be their consultant on our OPEB trust. BMO Harris is recognized as the affiliate which will now step in to manage that third-party investment, and just to rekindle some thoughts of what we talked about through this change in third-party administrator. There are anticipated savings to the district, approximately the $6,000 mark for us to experience, which will be a good thing. And as well, the true position of this firm is to be the benefit management. They will work and ensure that the clients are receiving their due, their due benefits. I guess what I'm trying to say. They will receive their benefits and ensure that they're being paid out accordingly. Any questions that have come up over the past 2 weeks on this? I believe if it does go through, we'll need some signatures from a couple individuals on the board before this on c.CESA.
I'll make the motion to recognize the updated agreement resolution BMO Harris, third-party administrative assistant management of Wisconsin OPEB Trust, which is managed for c.CESA.
Andy? I'll second that. Discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you
B?
for that. Send it accordingly.
And B, high school cheerleading program.
At the October committee meeting as well, we had a presentation by Ms. Denise and Mrs. Primos with their interest in beginning or revitalizing, we'll call it, a cheerleading program within our high school and middle school. Since that time, Mr. Schrader and I have talked about the potential of the recommendation brought forward, and we agree that it is set up to be a nice opportunity for our students to promote. But at this time, we would like to support the opportunity at the high school level only. And some of the rationale that we gathered within that is that we're looking at quite a spectrum of age between a sixth grader and a senior in high school. And if their primary focus is to work and to perform within that varsity upper level high school setting, the appropriateness of the age of a young child at that age may not be the best fit. So we would look to encourage the program, create the opportunity with oversight from Mr. Schrader, and seek some interest. See if they have an interest in this program. As noted earlier, it's a volunteer position. If they do come forward with a team and an interest to begin, and if fundraising is secured in which he had talked about and is it appropriate, we would look to gather the team and start the process. Should be a good thing.
Why would you include middle school?
The concept of combining both the middle school and high school in that arena, from my perspective of being in education and whatnot, a sixth grader versus 11-year-old versus an 18-year-old competing in the same team and competing in an environment that may not be, let's say, normed or formal for that age. A sixth grader competing at a 8 o'clock game on a Tuesday night, the appropriateness of that may not be a good fit, in my opinion, at this stage in time. If there were opportunities to have an exclusive middle school team, I think that would be more appropriate and allow those individuals to support, practice, and perform for their students within the middle school setting.
Was it discussed with the potential coach both, the coach separately, and go to separate games?
I think we had a brief conversation on that, and I think you're going to be stretching a little too thin if they try to do within that. They're looking at 3 days a night, and I think that's a strong commitment on their end to start with. To maybe burn the candle on both ends to do a good job. Not that they won't, but be as effective as they can be. I realize that right now with some of our youth city programs that students coming up in that sixth grade have an opportunity, and we're creating that void, which could be a natural carryover into, but I think we'd be putting our students at some students at a Not yet. That, other than feedback
In
from.
the event that there's more interest in middle school and high school, instead of being exclusively high school, why would we be exclusively middle school?
I suppose it could go that route if we were to see that there wasn't interest at the high school, we could bring it back for approval within the middle school.
I know Deidre had thought it been a good idea to bring the middle school up, and then they would, kind of had some experience and
Right.
enthusiasm to go on. What if she just did what she wanted to do, but instead of bringing the middle school to the high school for the games, they just wouldn't be able to participate, but they could still learn and train. And then if she had free time and could go to a middle school game, then she'd already have her squad there, and then the high school kids would come down if she had time. That way she still would, because I think that was her goal. She wanted to bring the little kids along too, to keep them enthused or keep it continuing on.
Right.
I guess I disagree with the idea that we have it at the elementary and potentially high school, but not.
We
don't have it at
we don't
elementary.
support it at the
Right.
elementary.
We don't
There's
have it
a
at
community-based
elementary.
program that supports it.
Right. There's cheerleading available in elementary schools.
Right, through our community, correct.
Not.
Correct.
That's right.
I can see where there'd be a, benefit both ways. I mean, you've got such a difference in ages and, the way they act and get along and all those kinds of things. So I could see, definitely a reason for separating them, but I can also see that might not be a bad compromise to have them practice and things like that, and when available or appropriate, go to a middle school function event.
Board's discretion, we can put it out there to gauge interest.
Yeah, why do that? See how many interested in the middle school and see what the coach wants to do.
We're holding it off until they come back.
We can give her the authorization to go start it.
You can make a motion by recognizing your wishes, contention, or discuss.
I make a motion to authorize the high school and middle school cheerleading exploratory program.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Terrific, thank you.
10C, out-of-state field trip request, National FFA Convention.
Make recognition to request an out-of-state field trip for our local Weyauwega Fremont chapter to attend the national conference.
I make a motion to authorize the out-of-state field trip request for the Weyauwega Fremont FFA chapter to attend the national convention in Louisville, Kentucky, October 29th through the November 1st.
I'll second it.
Jim? Discussion, questions?
Just one comment, like the class that goes to Chicago for the physics department and the golf outing, all those teachers always come and talk to us and present their side, but I've never seen the FFA in 6 years come and talk to us and ask us to go. Are they that busy that they don't get to come visit us?
I think you just struck a nerve with Mr. Schrader. He'll follow up on that one. Good suggestion.
I think they have come afterwards a couple times.
It's been a
Maybe
while, but
once.
they have.
Maybe
been
once.
performing.
But it would be good if they.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And D, 2014 spring semester youth options request.
As discussed at the October committee meeting, you have several requests from our high school students to spring youth options, just to revisit these request offerings that are not offered within our class setting, and seek the opportunity through both the tech school and or UW school, primarily UW Fox Valley.
I make a motion to approve the 2014 spring youth option request as presented.
I'll second that.
Debbie, discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And E,
dollar value added on it?
I believe there was an established dollar value that it arrived with. I don't remember from our conversations, and I think that we'll pick up the end of the information that at one point in time, Second Wind Industries came in and did a third-party assessment of that's what they do and use for this equipment. So I believe there is a value to it right now.
And what's the need for that value? For the donators, for the booster club, or for us?
I guess not to pick a horse here, but I believe the intent was during that process that was looked at to identify a potential cost contribution if that project were to move forward. So I guess how their potential donation comes forward, I guess will determine the value of that.
If it's the dollar value that potentially would be a dollar cost sharing, then I'm going to challenge the value of that equipment. I've done some homework, and I think it's nowhere near the value that we've seen in writing for used equipment without warranty. And I would not like to see a dollar value placed on that without the board seeking an appraisal of the equipment.
Your orders, right?
I just have to say I don't see a need for it. They're making a donation, period. We don't ask anybody else what the dollar value of their donation.
Unless it's conditional that that donation value will somehow require matching funds. That's a unique situation.
I did not hear that said today.
But in the event that it is going to be requested for matching funds, then I think a value establishment would be more important.
I did not hear that said tonight, so I don't know why you would assume it was my opinion on it.
Okay. Sounds like Mr. Bleck had commented that the value was based on an in-kind of cash.
I did not hear that.
We'll wait till we get the written formal donation that right?
During the process this past summer, I
Yeah,
believe that was
but-
built into
but
their.
right now-
For right now, no, I don't have insight on that if it is or not. No, it's not my discretion, that's up to the side.
F.Fund 80 allocation.
Just to have some continued dialogue, I know at our budget meeting that we had on the 17th, we brought this topic up of Fund 80 and where it's at that current time, but since then, the rules have changed, so to speak, with recent legislation. Up until the passing of the new law, on the 20th, we were obligated to only fund $6,000 in our Fund 80 allocation for 2013/14. And when that amendment went through, that allowed, Sandy, they must have been listening, that's the only thing I can say, because you were going to write a letter, and like 3 days later, it changed.
Yeah, did your letter ever get there?
It must have been an overnight express.
They
right
could
to the
hear me.
governor. So thank you for your subliminal messages, and I'm sure
Can I
districts
say-
around the state are feeling the same
It
way.
was stupid.
Yeah, and, but I think that same voice was obviously being heard elsewhere, you know, in respect to the districts that are being, responsible to their citizens and to their budget process so that they don't misuse the tool as it is. But just feedback within our budgeted materials at our annual meeting coming up, the materials do represent our past budgeting, which would allow us to capture $25,000 to support our STEP programs and our different community initiatives that have been existing for the past few years. It's the board's discretion. It's how we'd like to move that forward. From our conversation, Dan and I, we both kind of shook our head up and down and said, it sure sounded like that was the intent. If we would have been there, then we could have done it. So that's why it's being brought forward in this manner. So.
My memory was that we were going to have Fund 80 matching last year for $6,000 this year.
Right.
And we thought the STEP program needed about 10.
Yes.
So we were about 4 short in round numbers.
Right.
I think that's a long ways from the 25,000 that's being proposed here.
Sure.
This 25,000 is above and beyond the tax levy. And I'm not sure, we should overfund it again if we're only 4,000 short.
Sure. I brought in just, I know Mrs. Ryman is here this evening as well, and she's our STEP coordinator, and she's an active party in this process as well. Currently, we have 25 STEP workers on paper that intend to contribute throughout the year. And that would be, if that were to move through a current cost of almost $11,000 to support that group. The one thing that Pat continually asking, there's people asking, can we afford to bring a few more people into the program? If we were to settle on 25,000, that would give us range to bring in potentially 10 more people into the program if there were interest to do that, and still support all the other programming within. But again, that's the board's discretion to see. That would be building 10 people into the program if we took 25.
And if I understand this correctly, you're going to tax above the revenue limits in our district.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people that come to STEP program get a reduction in their taxes. But their friends and neighbors have to make it whole.
Right, this is the...
So it's a tax redistribution thing, as I understand it. And I think that should be limited, not growing.
Well respected, I hear you that. That's just talking on what we've done in the past. So it's the board's discretion to interpret how they would like to move forward with that.
If we raise it to whatever amount you just said, does that mean then in the future we're always limited to that amount?
See, and Dan, I don't know if you've heard anything
I don't believe
with
that's
that.
cast in stone yet.
Well, we know that next year is part of the same biennium budget that we have now. So I believe that the same rules would apply that what we're looking at this year from next year. After that, it's anyone's ballgame.
My guess is that they're
Exactly.
giving us a chance to retool 1 year, and then they're going to say last year's budgeting.
Right. So my estimation would be is if we went to 25, next year we'd be able to levy for 25. If we went to 6, I believe next year we'd be capped at 6 because we've levied 2 years in a row, and we would not be able to get that 25 then.
I guess this, as a taxpayer, I don't mind giving a senior citizen who's willing to come in and help at the school anytime over the 40 hours if we paid for it.
44 hours.
44 hours. 66.
Oh, I'm sorry, 66.
66.
Yep. $6.50 an hour.
Dan, I guess I'm going to question if it was 6 last year and if they've made a last-minute change to say, well, you can do what you did the previous year. Is the biennium next year, are they going to say the previous year or the previous before all this rules came down? I don't have a clear understanding of that.
You know, I think that's an unknown right now.
That's how I took it.
You know, right now they said, you know, we can use last year's or the year before as long as the year before is more than what last year was and less than $1 million.
Right. So I don't think less than 25 this year is guaranteed to lock us in next year.
We don't know.
That's my interpretation.
But we agree
we're not
that
sure
we
yet.
don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't heard moving on that yet.
Well, I would propose like half of that, 12.5. It's way up from 6.
What did we
It
have
matches
in-
what we had for STEP program with a little extra.
What did we have on in there before? Was it 25 or
25.
The amount in there wasn't necessarily what we taxed it. My memory that, where is it? I thought we
I thought
taxed
it
about
wasn't
15.
until this year. I don't remember.
I thought we taxed about 15 and it had grown
To 20.
Last year we taxed at 6,000.
because it had gotten
Oh, what was the previous?
The previous year was at 25.
in the account or taxed for.
That was taxed for. There is a fund balance in there of about $15,000 right now, and we're anticipating expenditures of more than the $6,000, obviously. The $25,000 would allow us to expand our STEP program and possibly bring Zumba back in, which is a benefit to a lot of our employees. But that's certainly up to the board.
Do we have the history? You're saying it was 6 last year,
Yes.
and it was 25 the year before.
Yes.
What was it before that?
I don't have that with me, but I can look it up quick. If you want to move on to something else.
I think it only started 3 years ago, didn't it?
What did you say? I'm sorry.
No, it's been here a long
How
time.
many years have you been that coordinator, Matt? A lot.
Six?
My memory was it was
Six,
around
right?
15. taxed above the revenue limit.
I was still high school principal when we started with this. That was probably at least for a couple of years, so six years, probably starting at least at 6 years.
I've got feedback from the community that funding additional taxes above the fund revenue limits questions our priorities. If we're already taxed enough to run the school district, and we have a Fund 10 balance that is grown beyond what our percentage is supposed to be, that we can use Fund 10 to do this and not have to tax above the revenue limits.
We spend very little compared to other districts.
What do you want to set it at 15,000 and set aside 10 off the Fund 10 balance, 10,000 compensate?
Well, if last year's step system only needed 10 grand, why are we doing 25?
In 10-11, there was not a levy for Fund 8.
There was 0. And we still had step programs.
How much do we have in the fund right now?
The fund balance right now is $15,179.
So we have 15,000, and you figure we'll spend how much this year?
$17,691.
So,
Now that was with, the budgeting there was with knowing that we were gonna have levy at 6.
oh.
So we're not obviously expanding our step program, and we took out the Zumba expenses there.
So you're saying 21,000 you'll have in your fund?
Right. Afterwards,
plus the
it would be
6 would be
22. It would be
$21,800
afterwards.
And when we're done at the end of the year, if we had 22,000 in, we figure we'd have what left in there?
22,000.
No, but now if we spend,
Right. We would have 15. We'd levy for 25. We'd spend 17, and we'd have 22 left over.
Yeah, how many more people are requesting? 5 people, 10?
There are a couple that are interested, but not that many at this point. But I haven't reached out to that many people either. They should be doing this now, but we're about 24 right now. So.
People have talked to me and said you don't tax because you can't. You tax because of need. And our Fund 10 is certainly got enough if this was a need.
well, we can do it, that's why they allow us to do it.
I agree.
If they, we can't do it.
I agree. But do we tax only because we can, even though we have?
No, because we see a need for it.
Okay. If we have a need, Fund 10 has enough money for this need. Raising taxes is not required to make this happen. So you raise taxes just because you can.
Do we want to get handcuffed again if the rules do change in here we sit and we cannot utilize Fund 8 the way we should?
I wouldn't tax because you can.
I don't know that we need 25,000, but I think we need more.
What's the benefit of using the Fund 80 or allocating some money off in Fund 10 if we run short?
Well, your Fund 80 is designated for community funds, so anything that
Does that give us
benefits
a different tax write-off or gives savings
No.
or break anywhere other than it's just a Fund 80 that we're already designating a
Right,
certain amount to that?
right, and your Fund 10 is generally supposed to be for operating the school district and educating your kids. Now, your Fund 80 then allows for community involvement, and varying from district to district, they have different definitions on what that means. And for us, that means our step program to get, senior citizens involved in our school district, and then they get a tax exchange for that as well. Other districts run enough with school liaisons out of there, school nurses, crossing guards, and that kind of thing.
Summer rec program,
I'm sorry?
summer rec program.
True, that can work too.
I'm not saying we should, I'm
Right.
saying we
Right.
do.
In Manawa, we run our middle school sports out of there because it's open to the community. So expenses that shouldn't necessarily be within the regular operation of the school district. And, you know, the estimation of adding, you know, the $25,000, I believe it added about 2 cents to the mill rate. So, you know.
And doesn't
Yes.
it have to be voted on at the annual meeting?
Yes.
In a lot of the meetings, Fund 80s tended to be what we call a way to increase taxes and get more money when there's revenue limits. In other words, the state says this is what you can raise, but you enroll what you have. But Fund 80 allows you to raise more. If
But
you
our
spend it on
district hasn't abused that at all.
I'm not saying they have. I'm saying is it necessary to have a Fund 80 above the revenue limit when we've already got enough Fund 10 to do our priorities? And that's the people that have asked me to speak to that issue. That Fund 80, there are people that do not want any Fund 80 because you've already got enough Fund 10 for your priorities. Why are you raising revenue limits?
Are they people out here tonight?
No.
What's that?
Hey.
Well, I guess I'm not sure.
Oh, then you did say you didn't want funding?
I don't want you raising.
Get rid of the whole thing.
I'm asking.
Not when you don't need it, no.
You don't. We have two people. Three.
We'll have
Thank
to
you for speaking up.
Reduce the mill rate,
with
too.
the designation of what we, if we will retain the 6,000 or go to a different number, because when we get to the annual meeting and we talk resolution E, I think it is, when we set the tax levy, it is recognized in there. So we'll have to do some quick homework here to have that number accurate for that resolution. So we need to get to a final end result here on this topic. That's why I had information and or action work is dictated as to that. Can we function with less than 25,000? Yes, we can. And we'll be able to meet the needs of our program that are currently established and some existing programs that were recently shared with our community initiatives in the past. The intent of, we've all respected, every tax is a tax just because we can. I believe no, we're using it as a tool to capture what we can in the past. But your point's well taken, it's a tool to use and stuff, so.
I'm not sure we need 25.
Right, that's.
That's fine.
Well, you wanted 12.5, and you'll say cut it in half. And then if we have a great demand and we have awesome output from the community, we have the Fund 10 that we can allocate more to it, correct? If we choose. If
As
we
long
get
as
great
we have
support,
Fund 10.
we're running
Okay.
short.
I guess we could, if that is exhausted, then we could bring it back to the board and say, hey, this is where we're at, and we'll go from there.
What did you say it costs us right now to run this program this year? What is it going to cost us?
17.
17.
And then I would go with the 17 and say, okay, this is what we think it's going to cost. That's just my opinion.
And I would go to 0 because we have enough Fund 10 for priorities.
Do we need a motion here?
If the board would like to give a recommendation to the annual meeting, to the administration, to have it presented at the annual meeting, we can still do that.
Well, it sounds like we have a lot of different recommendations coming. My recommendation would be 17,000. I guess we don't have to, we don't make one.
Direction to the administration to work recommending hopefully in the meeting.
I'd like to make a motion. I'll make a motion that the board directs the administration to quickly do the numbers to present to the annual meeting at Fund 80 at $15,000.
6 to 15. That's my set.
I'll second it.
Yes.
Discussion on that.
Could you read that, please, for me?
Motion
by Neal, second by Byer, to approve the board, the board directs the administration to put the numbers together to present at the annual meeting to go from $6,000 to $15,000.
Does that Fund 80 in there?
No, Cheyenne.
I think Fund 80 was probably in my mind.
And then if we get great support and 15,000 ain't enough, then you'll come present it to us and we can take
Come
some
back
out
and
of
share.
fund 10 if so choose.
Here where we're at.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
George, quick math over there on that one then?
Yes, if we levied at $15,000, the mill rate would go from 866 to 868, as opposed to 869.
It seems like quite a battle to less than 1/10 of 1%.
Okay. That's what we discussed, all right?
Number 11, calendar and future agenda items. Meeting slated for the 11th November, regular board for the 25th. Anyone have anything on the committee agendas? No?
Probably Mr. felt that if it isn't by default, by someone else's issue, I have to make it.
You know, the 11th is Veterans Day and I'm a vet. Do I get time and a half?
We'll be having this program for school, though, if you're available to step on in.
Yeah.
Did we have that pledge of allegiance issue or something, or we put it on that one?
We can, yep.
Appropriate.
If you'd like to see it. Did, you know,